has been looking at a couple of mid-range AV receivers from two of the dominant players in the receiver market, Yamaha and Denon. And he's going to tell us about those today. So, Steve, let's start with the Yamaha. How was that?
Yes, the Yamaha RX-A6A, which is £2,300. It's the mid-range model, which I think is the sweet spot of the Yamaha range because it's got most of the features you'll find on the A8A flagship, but doesn't have the premium price point. It has 9 channels built in, so you could run a 5.1.4 immersive audio system, just using the AVR without having to add anything to it. But it can actually process up to 11.2 channels. So you could run, if you added 2 more channels of amplification, you could run a 7.2.4 system or a 5.2.6 system, depending on how you wanted to look at it. It's 9 channels built in, but 11.2 channels of processing. It does support Dolby Atmos, DTS:X, and the lesser known, less popular Auro 3D format. So you've got a full house of formats there. I always think with Yamaha, they tend to be quite musical because Yamaha is the only AV manufacturer I know of who actually also makes musical instruments, but they also tend to have quite a lot of power. They tend to be very powerful amplifiers, big beefy models, and this is no exception. It's got plenty of power, and then when you look at it, it's a pretty big beefy piece of kit. But they have this year simplified the layout, so it's less intimidating from the front. It's got a very clean fascia, just a small display and a big volume control. That's about it at the front. Obviously, when you go around to the back, a bit more complicated, but again, for an AVR, actually pretty simple in terms of its layout. They're trying to strip away the extraneous stuff and make it as simple as possible. Importantly, it has HDMI 2.1 inputs and outputs, which is great news if you're, like I said earlier, a next-gen gamer who wants to game at high frame rate, or if you did have an 8K display and an 8K source, good luck finding one of those. But if it do find one, it can actually pass 8K as well. So it's good in that sense. It's got Yamaha's YPAO room correction system, which is pretty good. It's not the most sophisticated on the market. There are better, but it does give a good result. It is really good at sort of balancing out the bass. And given that you can run 2 subwoofers off of this AVR, you can get a nice balanced bass performance. It's got a host of features built into it. So, you've got built-in Alexa, built-in Google Assistant, you've got Wi-Fi, you've got Bluetooth, you've got AirPlay 2. It has Yamaha's Music Cast, which is a multi-room system, so you can obviously connect it to a multi-room system with other Yamaha products and listen to something on one system and then listen to it elsewhere in the house or throughout the entire house. That's a really good feature. I think Music Cast is probably the best of the multi-room systems that you can get right now. So overall, it's a really, really classy piece of kit. It sounds fantastic. It's powerful. It's got all the features you could possibly want. I really like this receiver. And as I say, I think it's a sweet spot because you're getting all these features, but you're not necessarily paying the price premium you would for the A8A.
It sounds like it's absolutely packed with features. Some quality for films that you're watching, some just useful utility functions like an Alexa built in, for example. If somebody is thinking of going for this because they've upgraded their TV, they've been using a soundbar, they're thinking, you know what, we need to get a better home cinema type experience, and this is their first AV receiver purchase. Is it simple or difficult for that setup? Because looking at the back looks a bit scary, right?
There's no question that any AVR is intimidating just by looking at it, particularly if you look at the back. It's relatively straightforward to set up. I will say that Yamaha have got better. In the past, their interface was horribly confusing. The new interface is a lot better. YPAO is pretty easy to use and it comes with a microphone. It's not too difficult to set up. Obviously, you need to go in with your eyes open here. If you're going for a multi-channel AVR system, you're going to have speakers around the room. If you're going for so there's 9 channels built in. So let's say you're going for 9.1.4. So 5.1.4. So that means you're going to have 5 speakers at ear level. 3 at the front, 2 at the rear. You're going to have a subwoofer somewhere at the front of the room, and you're going to have 4 speakers overhead, either physically overhead or you can use upward firing drivers that bounce the sound off the ceiling. So there's a certain commitment here in terms of, taking over a room. If you're doing it in the lounge, be aware there's going to be some cables, there's going to be speakers everywhere, and it's not always that popular when you start trying to do that. But I will say that if you can make a little bit of effort in terms of, putting the speakers in, putting in a sub, setting it up correctly, you really will benefit in terms of your audio experience. Nothing elevates watching a movie, like a big blockbuster movie, nothing elevates it more than having a really big blockbuster sound to go with it. And trust me, you won't regret it.